Welcome everyone to our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining. We're here today to talk about the potential of seamless research through the recently launched integration of LibKey and Scite. It's wonderful to have all of you join, so many librarians, researchers, academics, and also information professionals, and that you're with us here today. My name is Julia Heeson. I'm the Director of Growth Marketing here at Research Solutions, and I'd love to also introduce our two panelists for today. So we have John Seguin join us. John has over 20 years of experience in the library industry and is the co-founder of Third Iron, whose main services, LibKey and Browsen, are now used in more than 1,600 libraries in over 35 countries. At Third Iron, John focuses on product development and design, as well as business strategy. Welcome to the webinar, John. And then we also have Ashish Uppala join us. Ashish is the CTO of Scite AI, which is now part of the Research Solutions family. In his previous life, he was a research fellow at the National Cancer Institute before he got cold feet from pursuing his PhD. He spent years developing his craft as a software and design consultant for various early-stage startups and as an engineer in different industries. Research is still close to his heart, and he loves being able to leverage his skills to solve important problems facing researchers today. So before I hand it over to our two panelists today, actually, let me cover some very quick housekeeping items, and then we'll get going. So you're all in listen-in mode. You don't have to worry about any background noise. Your cameras and your audio are off. We do have the chat enabled as well as Q&A. So if you run into any issues, feel free to reach out via chat. I'll be there and monitoring it. And then on Zoom down below, where it says Q&A, you can click on that, and then we'll have dedicated time for all of your questions towards the end of the webinar. But as soon as they come up, feel free to share them. Just know that we'll respond to them towards the end. And then the session is being recorded. I'll be sending an email to all of you later today. So if you want to share it with your colleagues, you want to rewatch a specific section of the webinar, we've got you covered. Okay, Ashish, handing it over to you.
Thanks, Julia, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Before we dive into the full demo, just a few words on the different companies here. So Scite has been around for the last, since about 2018. We have been focused primarily on solving issues of trust and reproducibility within research. And the company was originally funded from a grant through the National Science Foundation. We spent the early years really proving out this new citation index that we were building, and over time built a set of products that we'll show you later in this demo that really help researchers across different stages of their workflow efficiently search, discover, and synthesize high-quality research. As we became more sustainable as a product and business, in 2023, we sold Scite to Research Solutions and joined forces to really combine forces and work together on improving research overall. Research Solutions has been around since 2006. They've gone by a couple different names over the years, and so you may have also heard them as Reprints Desk or know them by their flagship product, Article Galaxy. And the focus of the company has really been on helping researchers across academia and corporate sectors efficiently access and manage copyright access to research articles. So they're used by researchers at leading pharmaceutical companies and corporations and universities across the world. And so in the next hour, we'll show you what Scite does and also speak a little bit to how in the longer term, we're working with LibKey and the Article Galaxy product to create a compelling ecosystem overall. Before we go on, I'll hand it over to John to speak a little bit about Third Iron and LibKey.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is John. I was one of the co-founders of Third Iron that we started in 2011. We're a library technology company, and we're built to deliver this fast, reliable, informed linking from any point of discovery. So we work with library holdings data to understand what a library subscribes to, what open access material is available, and to link you automatically from point A to point B in as few clicks as possible. We have a really nice AI algorithm that figures out the best available source for any given article and can signpost its availability in a lot of different services, including now Scite. So in Ashish's demo, he's going to kind of show how, of course, Scite works generally, but also how this new integration with LibKey can really accelerate a delivery to full text for subscribing customers. Thanks.
Awesome. So before we get going with the demo, I actually wanted to hear from all of you who joined today. I'm launching a poll here right now and just love to, know what your experience is right now. So which of the following applies to you? I'm currently using Scite. I'm currently using LibKey. I'm using both Scite and LibKey, or I'm not using Scite or LibKey yet. Giving you just another moment here, to fill out the poll. Okay, awesome. Looks like we've got all responses in. Let me share the results with all of you. Interesting. So good amount of people are using LibKey as of now. That's awesome. Few are using Scite, and then also seeing a few with Scite and LibKey. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome.
Hey, over
Yep. Yep. No, it's good to know, because I think, ultimately we want to make these demos as useful as possible. And I think it sounds like most folks on the call aren't using Scite today, so we'll try to make this demo a bit more engaging. So there's a lot of moving parts in this ecosystem that I kind of hinted at earlier, right? So Research Solutions has Article Galaxy, Scite is going to come together. And then we're also partnering, really the focus of this webinar, between Scite and Third Iron's product LibKey, to make it easier for researchers using Scite to get access to articles, their university or library already kind of subscribes to. And so what I'm going to do for the next maybe 15 minutes is show you a little bit about what Scite has really been doing and how people are using it. And towards the end, we'll go into what this integration with LibKey looks like for the end user, and why it's honestly pretty exciting for me as someone who's been working on building Scite for the last 4-ish years. And then towards the end, John will kind of go into how LibKey works for those of you on this call who aren't using it. And then we'll take your questions towards the end. So this is the part where I do a live demo, which means I have to move some things around on my screen. Okay, so whenever we talk about Scite and we try to explain what it does and why it's so cool, we usually like to show the world without Scite. And the thing is that, I said this earlier, most of our founding team has an active research background, and some of them are still doing research today, either in a PhD or as professors or so on. And so a lot of the things that we were working on solving was something we felt the pain of when we were in the lab, in journal meetings, coming up with new ideas for research for our own careers back in the day. And so this is actually a paper that I published. It was a clinical trial that I worked on when I was doing liver cancer research at the NIH. And you could do this with any of our kind of PhD theses or other articles that we worked on. And so when you look at my article today at the Journal of Hepatology's website, what you usually see is what we're usually familiar with. It's a lot of metadata, right? Where is it published? What's the title? Who are the authors? Somewhere buried in the middle is my name, as it is with early career researchers. And then you can kind of scroll down and maybe read, kind of high-level information about the article itself, or if it's open access, get the article. Often within publisher version of records, we kind of reduce a lot of research into numbers, right? How many citations does it have? What's the H index? How many times has it been viewed in different blog posts or Twitter or whatnot? Because we try to look at these numbers as early proxies of quality. And if you've ever taken a research ethics course, or you've spent time at kind of conferences, you always hear that citations are more than just a number. We shouldn't kind of over-index on the number of times a paper was cited, because even if something's been cited, in this case 612 times, what do those 612 articles even say about it? Are they saying this is good research? Is it bad? And when I was doing cancer research back in 2015, the name of the game, I mean, the thing that was kind of in everyone's mind was, is this reproducible or not, right? And especially with clinical trials, that was very much a touchy subject even back then. And so the idea behind Scite really started as a response to this fundamental problem in research as a whole. And if you've taken a lot of research ethics courses or studied that, what you quickly realize is a lot of these problems happen because of how entrenched things like citation counts really are within the whole industry of research. And so what we wanted to do as Scite was to kind of move the needle away from that to really surface the content and conversations that happen when citations are actually made between research papers. So I'm going to pull this up. This is actually our free browser extension, which shows our numbers. And I'll go into this a bit more once I go into the site itself. But if you click on it, you can load up the article within Scite. And well, let's see if it loads, and if it doesn't load in about 2 seconds, I will switch tabs. Okay. I apologize. My Wi-Fi is a little spotty, thanks to the hotel I'm in, and I'm sure the video isn't helping. So if I loaded this earlier just in case. So if you click on the badge from the publisher website, you load up what's called a report page within Scite. And what this is really another way of looking at a research article to understand more information about it. So at the top, you see a lot of the same familiar metadata that you're accustomed to, right? Titles, authors, abstracts. And as you scroll below, what you quickly notice is you see citation counts. Okay, it's been cited by 641 publications. And as you keep going further and further down, you see the information that you're typically used to with the traditional citation index, where you can start reading the titles of the articles that made a citation to me. But what's really different and innovative about Scite is that we have agreements with publishers to index the full text of research articles. And so in addition to showing you how many citations there are or what papers are making a citation to me, I can actually also show you that this article in 2022 cited me in the discussion section and the introduction section. And I can show you a 3-sentence long excerpt that we pull out of the full text article. So it's not AI generated or anything like that, but it's just the raw full snippet from the full text of the article, where the authors actually made a citation to my paper. And so here they're talking about how there's kind of a similar tendency and different biomarker expression compared to previously published data. And so this is really, really high quality stuff because, you know, in the traditional view, all you get is maybe some information about the article and some numbers. Here you get all of that, but you get a lot more because now you're able to actually read what these articles actually said about me and build up more of a qualitative understanding of how my actual study was cited, right? Is it reproducible? In this case, there seems to be a couple research articles that seem to indicate that they are able to reproduce my findings. And maybe you don't actually know what my paper is about and you're looking at the abstract, but the words just aren't hitting. Whenever I need to learn something new, I love having things explained to me in different ways. And one thing we've quickly found through citations is that when a paper gets cited in different sections, newer authors will often describe the original findings to explain what the body of work is. And so here in an introduction section of this paper, they're actually describing some of the key findings of my research article, which is actually really useful to be able to skim and read and understand and build up that intuition and understanding for yourself really within one click. You'll also notice, in addition to seeing what was said about my paper and where it happened, which section, there's a little classification. And so this is a classification from a deep learning model that we trained that adds some more annotations on the actual citations that are being made. So here they're telling you what the deep learning model is saying is it's classifying this sentence or this snippet as offering supporting evidence for my paper. And so it's looking at how the snippets are written, and it's saying, okay, it seems that these authors are indicating that there's some kind of empirical reproducibility for the cited claims. This is a supporting citation statement. This one isn't really looking at kind of the claims themselves, but it's just making a kind of mention to my paper. So it's a mentioning citation statement. And I actually don't have any contrasting statements, but in some cases, researchers will actually say our findings empirically, deviate from the cited paper's claims. And so those get classified as contrasting. And so, as much as we'd love to kind of move away from numbers, we do think even within the world of numbers, we can do a little bit better. So instead of seeing that my paper was just cited 641 times, you can actually see the breakdown of citations by different type that we've also indexed. And so when you look here, you see that my articles received 10 supporting statements, about 458 mentioning statements. And these are the numbers that you see within our browser extension. And so even here, if you compare the metrics that we show in our badge to what the publisher shows through citation counts or through social mentions, you're actually getting a little bit more relevant information as a researcher, because you're able to see that it's not just cited a lot of times, but it's been maybe relatively well supported by newer research. And so maybe it's a good thing to check, and you can quickly click this, open up the report page, filter on the supporting statements, and start reading them. And so in this view, what you're able to do is quickly refine and sift through the conversation that happens within research. And this also becomes a compelling discovery workflow where you can actually start reading these snippets and finding other citation statements within the full text. So when we think about the traditional citation index that happens between publications, what we find is that we found a way, like the World Wide Web, to link publications based on citations to each other. Within Scite, you can actually do that one level deeper, because every in-text citation is linked by DOI. And so as you start going here, you can see from this article in 2021 published in Nature that they're talking about the increased response rates between the dual blockade of CTLA4 and PD-1, which is an immune checkpoint inhibitor. And here you can see 122 is a reference from my article in their full text. 107 is actually a different article. And so these co-citations actually become a very compelling discovery workflow where researchers can actually start finding other relevant research based on the claims that are actually being made by the authors. And so as someone goes into understanding a paper or a body of work, they can actually start chaining citations to find higher quality research and constantly have this ability to dig into the citation statements that are being indexed by Scite. So we spent years working with publishers to get access to the full text of articles to build this index. We've got over 1 billion of these statements, and it's constantly growing every single day. And for a long time, the product experience at Scite was really around reports and understanding individual articles. Over time, we started building out the product in different ways to help researchers in different areas of their search and discovery workflows. And so we built a search experience really around the citation statements that we have, where you can actually start searching your keywords, and you can match it not just on titles and abstracts, which you're probably familiar with in most other tools, but you can also start matching this on snippets that we've indexed from the full text. And so it gives you a way to really not just find information by having a broader surface area to look for different keywords on, but when you find articles, you're actually able to skim these snippets and build up an understanding of maybe a drug or a therapeutic area or whatever your research interest is. I could talk for hours about the different bells and whistles that are here, but I also know that we have a lot of different things to go through. One thing I'll say about search is that you usually have all the usual bells and whistles. It's a typical keyword-based search with Boolean queries, advanced searching, sorting, and filtering, and alerts, and so on. And to the extent that anyone's interested in a deeper demo of that, we're happy to set one up. The final thing I want to talk about that researchers are really using is our product called Assistant. You'll notice that when I was talking about research without Scite, this problem we were trying to solve 5-6 years ago, the focus, the mission for us was really on solving what we call trust issues, right? And helping researchers really scale with the volume of research that was being published, how do you actually juggle different, research papers that you need to read? How do you sift through the noise and find the important stuff? And we made pretty good progress in solving that problem through our new citation index. And then last year, ChatGPT came out and introduced a whole new set of trust issues for researchers, because large language models were exciting, but they were also hallucinating like crazy. And so we began to think about what we could do with our citation index and how we could create an experience for researchers that really brought in that concept of trust in a tool, while leveraging the unique capabilities of large language models. So our response to that is what we call Scite Assistant, which follows a similar kind of conversational paradigm that you see with a lot of other tools. And so I'll just ask a question, maybe how does a structure of a protein affect its function? And what you'll notice it does is, instead of giving you an answer by just guessing the next word that might be the correct response, what it actually does is it tries to figure out how to search for an answer to your question. And then it devises a search strategy, maybe using different combinations of keywords, using the search tool or product that I showed you earlier, and it finds a bunch of documents that it can, right? So it looks for maybe hundreds of articles that are matching these different searches that it runs, and it tries to figure out, these ones are relevant to the question that this person is asking, these aren't relevant. So you can actually see that it ran these searches, went through about 58 publications in this case, and you can see which ones it's actually looking at on the right, and it starts to re-rank them in different ways to figure out which ones are the highest quality citations that actually should provide an answer to your question. Once it finishes ranking everything, it starts to draft a response using the information it finds from these results. And it actually, once it finishes drafting a response, will fact check itself to make sure that what it says actually is supported by the papers it's citing. And so there's an aspect of citation chaining here and just fact checking. And the final result is an answer that is grounded in research articles that we're able to find in our database. So last year we'd go to librarian conferences and we'd find librarians coming to us and saying, my researchers are using ChatGPT. They're asking me to find articles that don't exist, and I've never experienced this problem to this level. And this was really our response to that problem that we noticed in the research ecosystem. And so when it finishes fact checking, and maybe if it, so it finished here. And so what you'll see is not just an answer, but also kind of in-text citations, where you can not just read what the language model wrote, but also the information from the article that it's using to back up what it writes. So you don't just get an answer with a bunch of references, but you also get the ability to inspect why it's citing something, what they said. And so it creates a lot of openings for researchers to leverage the power of large language models with the trust and control that they really need for the high stakes work that they do almost every day. One of the questions that we always get asked when someone looks at this tool across reports, across search, across assistant is, can I get access to the full text article? Because we always say, we work with publishers, we get access to the full text, and we index all of this information. And for a long time, the answer is no. And actually, it still is no, right? So we can't actually give anyone access to articles that we've indexed through these agreements that we have with publishers. And the experience for a lot of users in Scite for a long time was this view full text link. So you'll see it here and really anywhere an article pops up. And what this is a redirect by DOIs. So if you open it up, you just go to a publisher version of record, and your ability to kind of access this article, interesting web page by Sage, not sure what happened here. Your ability to access this article really depends on whether it's open access, whether you're on your university institution and can have institutional sign-in, or so on. The thing is, when you're actually doing research and you're trying to find something, you often just want to read the paper, right? You found it, you don't need to do 5-10 clicks and maybe even fail to access it in some cases. And so what we wanted to do, especially in cases where we had academic customers, right? So librarians and universities signing up for Scite to give access to Scite for their researchers and faculty and students, we wanted to give those users a faster pathway to the content their university already subscribed to. So I showed you what this looks like for the general user of Scite. If a user on a LibKey enabled account is using Scite, so I think I'm on my test account. This is a test with the Carnegie Mellon University test account that we have. The view full text link actually changes and it becomes view PDF. And what we're able to do is to use LibKey to detect whether this user from this university has access to this DOI. And if they do, we can actually just say view PDF, and when they click it, they get routed to a LibKey loading page that then determines the pathway for them to access the article. And so in this case, it's an open access article. I can click it, I go straight to the PDF, and I can go back and do whatever I want to do. And so we think this is really exciting, right? Because I think for years we've kind of felt the frustration of our users trying to access articles. And we've done research before, so we know how important it is to be able to send them to the full text itself at that point in time when they really want to just read the thing and do their work. And so I'm going to hand it over to John pretty shortly to talk about how the LibKey component of the integration works on a technical side. Before I do, the one thing I'd say is that I can talk about Scite for hours and hours and hours. So if anyone has any questions about the different kind of product offerings, we're happy to kind of schedule follow-up demo sessions in more detail. Okay, go back here. And John, do you want to go into LibKey?
Sounds great. Yeah, just the next slide I could use to talk through, please.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Ashish. Really, that's actually the most the in-depth demo of Scite's new assistant feature I've seen. So I appreciate that explanation. It looks really cool. I have questions for you myself about that, which we might get into. But thanks, folks, for joining. For those of you familiar with LibKey, this should not be a surprise slide at all. You're very familiar with how this is put together. But for folks that are brand new, Third Iron is a library technology company. As Ashish was talking about, a lot of the folks on his team are former researchers, and on our end, we're former librarians. So we've all been kind of like in the trenches trying to connect people to content and having those frustrated researchers at our doorstep, trying to figure out how to get to the full text. So one of the components of our technology that we call LibKey is aiming to do just this. We say it tries to solve the last mile problem of access. As was being shown in Scite, prior to the LibKey integration, they were resolving by DOI, which is incredibly common. And a lot of services that do really innovative things, like Scite's doing, have a lot of interesting things that all end in the let's resolve the DOI, and then it's up to the user to kind of sort this out. The best way to kind of think of LibKey is sort of like the DOI resolution, except with the addition of entitlements knowledge and authentication knowledge. So on a per institution basis, we're able to know where do you get this thing from and how do you get access to it, meaning what is that authentication mechanism? We do that by API interaction. So when he was kind of showing and scrolling through there and it said view PDF, those are rendered in real time. And those are talking to our servers, which have an understanding about your holdings entitlements. Those holdings entitlements are synchronized between ourselves and whatever link resolver vendor you're using. So it could be Alma, it could be SFX, EBSCO, OCLC, TDNet. We support all the major ones out there. And if you don't have one, we even have ways to upload data quite manually. So there's a lot of ways to have that synchronized on our end so we know what you have access to. We also have some advanced open access knowledge where we're curating that material ourselves. And we essentially then put it through what we call the AI expert source selection, which is that little waterfall you see there in the third column, where we look to see, is something open access version of record first? If so, just like that Frontiers paper he was showing, zooms you right through. If not, we look at your subscribed journal holdings from publishers. If it's not in there, what about aggregation? Your EBSCO, ProQuest, Ovid, that sort of thing. And then also we look at some non-version of record in certain cases, things that are accepted manuscripts. We actually scrub out things like submitted manuscripts because of how much can change, of course, going through peer review. And then also, if none of those qualify, then we provide a real-time link to ILL or document delivery. So on the Scite side, that means that the box will, or the wording will change from a PDF to access options. And when the user clicks that, they would be taken to that link resolver page for that article. So like Carnegie Mellon was being used there, it would go to Carnegie Mellon's Alma instance, and you would see what is available. The nice part about that is that provides a nice tongue and groove coordination between all of the Scite integration with LibKey, as well as Article Galaxy. So if you have Article Galaxy at your library as well, that will appear in your link resolver options, and you can see what options you have to purchase that article or do ILL and so on. So we very much bill LibKey as a complete document fulfillment solution, running through your open access availability, your holdings, your subscription holdings, as well as that document delivery or ILL. We also are making users aware of any editorial statuses, expression of concern, retraction, and we'll display those for the user as well when they kind of link through and are able to see those things. If you're already using LibKey today, and you're familiar with how this works maybe in your discovery system, like Primo or Summon and EBSCO, this is the exact type of integration there, which means all the other things that you see with LibKey, like analytics, and where you can see how many articles are downloaded by journal and so on, all of that activity in Scite also flows through to analytics that we provide to you as well, so you can see what materials are being used. I think I'll hand it back over to Julia, but that's my overview of what LibKey is.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John, for that overview, and Ashish for the demo. As Ashish said, we're super excited about this integration, just making researchers' lives easier. So if you like what you saw as well, definitely want to ask you to try it out yourself. I'm adding some links here in the chat as I speak. So you can head over there. One is for Scite, one is for Third Ireland, which is LibKey. So head over there, and we'd love to enable you free trials, or you can even, if you'd like to, jump on another call with us, and then we can, show it to you once again, how that will look like for your organization or your university, and test that out. Awesome. Okay, let's move into the Q&A. And if you haven't added your questions yet, feel free to do so, but I have seen a few come in. And then John, we'd love to hear your questions too, by the way.
Okay.
Let's get started. The first question I see is, so how does integration work and how will it look like from within Scite?
Yeah, so like I was showing earlier, right? So most users without the integration will see that view full text link, which is a generic DOI redirect. For library customers who are paying for Scite, so when we configure an organizational license for you within Scite, all we need to know is your LibKey library ID, and then any user using Scite that's authenticated on your license will automatically have the LibKey integration enabled. So it'll start saying via PDF. If you've got a pathway to an article or access options, like John was saying, if we need to use a link resolver because an article isn't in your holdings, and that's pretty simple. It's a hard thing to kind of showcase and screenshot because it's just a button that works, but it's simple and effective. Yep.
One of those things you only feel if you don't have it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Magic. Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. How do you enable the integration with LibKey into Scite? It's the next question. I think you kind of already alluded to that, but
Yeah, so if you're already a Scite customer and you happen to be working with LibKey as well, and we didn't already turn it on for you, get in touch with us and we'll be able to find your LibKey ID, or you can let us know what it is. And then it's a simple flip of the switch on our side. And similarly, if you're kind of a new customer, it's just something we sort out during the implementations process once we have that information.
And I should say that if you're already a Scite customer and you're not a LibKey customer and you do a trial, we're happy to turn this whole thing on as part of a trial so you can see everything working together.
Yes, great call out. Thank you. Good questions, everyone. Thank you. So what does LibKey do when an article isn't part of the subscription?
Yeah, so if it's not part of the subscription that you have, that's when you'd see that access options button appear. So at that point, it is going to the link resolver to say what other fulfillment options might you have here. LibKey is very much designed to link to electronic sources, whereas your link resolver may have print options available. It may have ILL, it may have document delivery. So we provide some other options there for kind of the long tail of access to make sure you can get it somehow.
Amazing. Okay, I see one more question. So if you haven't added your questions yet, this is the perfect chance to do so. So last question I see is it free and how do I get access?
None of this is free. But yeah, so these are both subscribed products, but we do trials of both of these. And with the links that Julia put in the chat there, we're happy to set you up with those. It doesn't take very long, probably on either of our ends, to get this going for you.
And I would also just add that if you're already kind of paying for both, there's no extra fee to enable the integration. That's just a simple switch. So
yeah, so that part, yeah. So the integration is free. That is true. But yeah, so individually, the products do need to be subscribed.
Yes, awesome. Okay, wow, looks like we've run through the questions. Amazing. If any other questions come up, if we move to the next slide, actually added the email. Oh, add the email address is here. Feel free to reach out to John or Ashish. Of course, you can feel free to reach out to myself as well. Just hit reply to any of the emails that you received about the webinar. Those land in my inbox. Or hit us up on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to take any questions. Sometimes it happens where an hour later you come up with a question, and just know that we're still here to answer them for you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Ashish and John, for being on the webinar today. And yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.
thank you.